Okay, so I have Matte Medium. It is different than Mod Podge. It used to be that I would use Mod Podge watered down, just because I didn't have a lot of Matte Medium, but you don't need to do that. Matte Medium is not a glue. It's kind of like an additive to acrylic paint to make it more matte. It literally mattifies whatever you add to it. But the cool thing about it is it doubles as like an art supply that helps with transfers, okay? And I actually learned this in one of my intro art courses in college. And I really liked it. It was really cool. So here's the finished example with just the ink left. And this is what I've already started, so I can easily show it to you again. And then down here, I'm going to start one from scratch, maybe two. So I have this just random paper printed out. I'm going to cut up this little section here. And then I'm going to do one of the words. Anything you do this transfer technique to is going to be backwards. So words will be flipped backwards. It's meant to be a kind of like a design, a background design that you can layer up over time, and not just something to be like read. So it's more artistic than anything. Now that this one is dry, I can put this right on top of it, and you can layer these as well. I think that's really cool. So we'll get started with this. You'll need matte medium, a paintbrush, and a sponge. Let me get this wet really quick. Okay, so step one. So remember, this is not a glue, but we're kind of making it adhere to the page at first. Also, I have a watercolor wash that I let dry before this. This is something that is really blendable and really buildable, so you can do a lot of different things with it. So, matte medium, you'll need to burnish your paper down so there's no air bubbles. Anything that doesn't have the matte medium attached won't stick. So really make sure it's super stuck on there. I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. Okay, so once those are down, you're going to take your sponge and get it completely wet. Okay, so it soaks through. After that, you do have to let it dry. And if you want to speed up that process really quickly, I have a heat gun in the back. So this will happen really quickly. But if you don't let it dry, it doesn't really adhere. So it's set. We're going to move on to this. So we're going to pretend like, you know how they do those cooking shows? We're like, here's all the ingredients. Let's put them together. Oh, I have one right in the oven, ready to pop out. So that's kind of like what we're going to do right now with this. So matte medium down, paper on top, burnish it in, let it get wet, and then let it dry. So this one's fully dry. After it's fully dry, you're going to lightly get it wet again. And basically, you're just going to start taking off the paper. Get this out of the way. Okay, so you're taking off the paper bit by bit and only leaving the ink. Okay. The more you take off, the clearer it'll be. If you don't take off all the paper, once it dries, it'll like have a like kind of cloudy look to it. And if it's not coming off as good as you want it to, just get it just a little bit more, just add more water and keep going. And you can do this until the whole paper is off or until some of it is, so you can make it look weathered. You can paint on top of this with watercolors. I did my base layer down here to make it look different, but you can also paint on top of it. So it doesn't have to be a one layer and you're done. It should be multiple layers to make it look really interesting. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. You can see some of the paper is still there. And obviously it's backwards, so it's not meant to be read, it's just meant to look cool. If I were doing an actual project with this, I would layer multiple, like, you know, papers of words on it so it can look really interesting and not just like so like spaced out. The more layers on it you have, as far as words go, in my opinion, I think it looks a little cooler, a little more complete. So there you have it, quick, easy matte medium transfer tutorial. Just a quick note, don't use glue, don't use Mod Podge, use matte medium. And I have a whole big massive jar of it up here that you guys can separate into little jars and if you want to use it. Yeah, so send me anything that you have that you want to get printed and I can print it for you. Of course, you can bring anything that you want for these books from your own house.